Hey there guys, my name's Sarah, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something a little different. As you can probably see, my face is not on screen. In preparation for my novel Nephilim coming back from beta at the end of April, I thought I would take a look back at how much Nephilim has changed, talk you through my very basic revision process, one that is definitely going to change for draft 5 or draft 5.5. So here we go. We started with 2015 NaNoWriMo novel Nephilim right here. It's very old, the folder is completely falling apart, nothing is in the right place, everything has fallen out many times over the past few years, definitely. So you've got pages falling out here. This, like I said, was completed in 2015 for NaNoWriMo. I think I'd written up to chapter 8 before NaNoWriMo started and stalled for like a year maybe before I picked it back up again. It's 15 chapters, I couldn't tell you how long it is. Single spaced, 200 pages maybe. I printed this all off at work on the sly using their paper and their ink. Oh well, they have enough of it. And yeah, this was my very first, it's my very second finished novel, and the first one that I wanted to get published. As you can see, I don't really revise very well at all. I think reactions, because there is none, such as the power of NaNoWriMo, nothing is filled in. So yeah, I don't revise very well at all here. I'm changing words, adding words, and it's not very in-depth at all, which changes, it does change. So yeah, that's the very first iteration of Nephilim. Then we move on to 2016 and draft 2. So everything that I'd revised from draft 1, draft 2 here. Again, it's 15 chapters. It's not much longer at all, 68,000 words, which is extremely low for a YA novel. Again, there's not a lot of in-depth revision at all. I'm going through changing where chapters begin, changing simple words and phrases, really taking out a few, or rewriting I should say, a few paragraphs. And this is where I changed all of the chapter lengths, and you'll see as we go into number 3 how 15 chapters in 2016 became 28 chapters in, or 27 chapters I should say, in 2017 with draft 3. It wasn't that I added anything in at all whatsoever, it's just that I cut down 7,000 word chapters into 3,000 word chapters and sort of just spaced it out and cut it up a little bit so it'd be a little bit more easy to read. This was, draft 2 was the first draft that went into beta, which as you can see is why everything is being revised in a lot more depth. We've got entire paragraphs coming out and changing. We've got lots of additions there at the bottom. So this is where I first really started to get into my whole very vague revision process. I've got an entire chapter being cut there, which, if I'm looking at it, oh no, it's still cut. I add stuff back in sometimes, I've noticed. So this is the first one that was changed and revised from beta, so they did an absolutely fantastic job. Anything highlighted, so the way I did it was I compiled all of the beta's revisions into Google or whatever it was, and any comments I agreed with based off the comments, the inline comments on the manuscript, I would highlight, and then that would correspond to, so we've got So You Brought Me Here to Try to Recruit Me, highlighted number 70. So taking over here my lovely notebook where I wrote down every single issue that all of the betas had that I agreed with that needed changing into the book. Anything that is protagonist related for Ali, anything that is randomly character related, and then here all my numbers are corresponding to the highlights in the book. So if we go to 70, that line needs a little bit more clarification in regards to the contents of the whole book. So that was how I revised, and I think 158 points that are highlighted that need sorting out, clarifying, explaining better, not including everything that has to do with the plot, everything that has to do with the characters, everything that has to do with the protagonist. And that is how I revised. I found it easier that way. Anything that was highlighted sort of jumped out right at me, so I knew I needed to fix it. This one had the most cuts out of anything. Cut there, everything from, this is really sad, everything from this lovely little tab here, this beautiful tab here, so from page 235 all the way to page 335 was cut from draft 3. It was very sad. It really had to happen, because I went to town with this, really, didn't I? Because the plot didn't make sense. It made sense, but I suppose within the context of a standalone novel, it didn't make much sense. So this was draft 4. Draft 4 became my draft 5. Draft 3, no, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Draft 3, 72,000 words. So I jumped from 68 to 72,000 words, which is what, 4,000 words. I cut 100 pages of that, and draft 3 became, in 2018, draft 4. A marked difference in draft 3. This is 83,000 words long, so after cutting those 100 plus pages from draft 3, I added 10,000 extra words on top of everything that I cut. It's still 28 chapters. This has been in beta twice now. This is the draft that is, it's not the draft that's currently in beta. I did a revision beta session for draft 4. I quick revised it into sort of like a draft 5-ish, and then had another beta session for it to draft into sort of draft 5.5 and sent it out again. So draft 4 has been in beta 3, it's on its 3rd run, 2 sets of beta readers, and then 1 set of a couple of CPs going through it, one of who is still working with me on it. So as you can see, I couldn't fit it in my normal binding, so I had to get it in a folder, which is really awkward to revise with, by the way. But it's fun. I have post-it notes for this revision up here, which go into a bit more character depth, some character tells here as a note to remind me for action tags and things like that. I've got points here. All of these small ones are points in the story that were pointed out by the betas that I needed to remind myself of. Anything ticked was something that I added in, stuff that to make it make sense. I don't know what these are. Explains fairy history, say it, etc. etc. These, I think these are the conversations. These two here are conversations that I had included, because my conversations kind of repeated themselves, so I took note of all the important conversations that happened in what order. And draft 4 is absolutely full of post-it notes. Couldn't tell you what any of the post-it notes mean anymore, to be fair. I think the ones with the names at the back here are when I was going through highlighting everything. So highlighting in here? I wasn't highlighting here. When I was going through my CPs and my betas revision, I would stick a little post-it note as chapters came back saying this is where I've revised for this person, and then we'd go on and forth. Some of it is massively revised, some of it is not. This one isn't highlighted because the beta sessions I had for this draft were not very good beta sessions, and I don't mean that the critiques and comments I got from my betas were terrible. They massively helped. What I mean is, I think out of a total of 28 over the course of the 2 betas, I got maybe 8 or 9 people actually completely finish the novel. So not a lot of them were massively in-depth either, but they still gave me, what are these post-it notes for? I have no idea. But that's what happens when you revise. You put stuff in here that you have no idea what it is and what it's supposed to make sense. How many of us are there? Why this town? Riley ? Like, but that's how I revise. I school things in the corner that I have no idea what it means. Ali feeling. Ali think angels. Yeah. So this is my current draft-ish that is being revised. The one that is in beta at the moment that is coming back in April is all of these changes. Anything that I've cut, anything that I've moved, I've cut and I've moved and I've sent that off. So it's a 4.5 beta that's been sent off. Based on the beta so far, I'm going to have to cut again, stuff out, change the plot again, which I might do a video on how I revise RE plotting. I'll have to take a note of that. But that is the history of Nephilim. It's been a long road. It's been 4 years this year. And who knows how many more beta rounds I'll go through, how many more times it will need to change, if it will need to change again. And it's hard work, definitely, but I have a lot of fun with it. This is my first serious novel, and whether it's the first one I get published or not, I will. It's still my dream to get it published. It has been since I first saw the concept, maybe 2013, 2014. So I hope I'm not scaring anyone off who's perhaps new to writing looking at this. It's not always like this. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's a lot worse. But if you're dedicated, if you really want to do it, then you'll do what you need to do in order to make your novel the best it can be. So there we go. That's all from me today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Good thoughts and happy writing.